Welcome to Let's Play Games West Virginia. I'm Kevin,
I'm Heather.
and this is PokéMonday. So PokéMonday is a weekly show on Let's Play Games West Virginia where we go over the past week of Pokémon Go. So our footage is pre-recorded from the last week or so, and then we go ahead and play that footage and discuss the events that have happened, news, and the gameplay. So if you're new to Let's Play Games West Virginia, we are a Twitch channel of West Virginia gamers, and we have something going on every day of the week. It's pretty neat. You can pop in most evenings, and one of us is here playing anything from Pokemon to survival horror zombie games to Hearthstone to kind of retro style console games, and everything in between. So welcome to Let's Play Games West Virginia. Let's get into Pokemon Go. We had several big news breaks happening this week. Oh, my video is not happening.
Oh no.
There we go. So we had several big pieces of news this week, one of which we don't have any footage of the new change, but we have increased Meltan spawns for the Meltan box. So if you're just getting into playing or you haven't had a Meltan yet, Meltan is a mythical Pokemon that you can only get in two ways. The first being you can complete the Meltan quest, which is much more difficult now that the special event is over, or you can trade a Pokemon to a Let's Go Pikachu or Let's Go Eevee game, either yours or someone else's, and get a Meltan box in return. That box, it works very much like an incense. It's good for 30 minutes. You can use one every 7 days, and it allows Meltan spawns to occur, and then you can catch them.
The technical detail about that, though, is that regardless of how many times you transfer Pokemon throughout the week to Let's Go, you will only be able to get the box whenever the day on your Pokemon Go app says 0. On day 0, you have to transfer Pokemon to Let's Go in order to get that box to be functional again. So I have synced mine up to be on the same day as my 7-day research quest, such as like Kevin's Zapdos here. But that is a helpful way to remind myself that I do have to transfer them that day.
Additionally, when the boxes first came out, you could get up to 10. I got 9, I think, the first time. I think you got 7.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually easier if you stay in one location because they spawn in a timed manner rather than being pulled out of the environment. So it's easier not to miss one because the sprite is teeny tiny and it's really easy to miss, especially if you have a Stardust and an egg going.
It's actually quite easy to mistake for your avatar's shoe. It's that small.
With the new update, however, that number almost doubled. So I ended up with, I think, 19 after our most recent box. So here on the screen right now we have an opening of a Meltan box. And it works exactly like an incense, basically, just for one Pokemon. You cannot use an incense on top of using a Meltan box. If you pop an incense thinking to kind of make better use of it before you open the box, you'll actually be unable to open the Meltan box.
You can see some of that frustration in one of our previous videos in which I jumped the gun and thought, oh, I will double my efforts, and opened an instance first, and then was unable to use my Meltan box. So don't make that same mistake. I did it and learned on your behalf.
The other thing that I've noticed, now this is anecdotal because I haven't seen it discussed a whole lot elsewhere, is that catching Meltan is a bit more difficult now that the number of them has increased. I also saw my average CP go up significantly.
I had an array. I had everything from 76 CP all the way up to, I think, 700? Almost 800. So I didn't have the same sort of difficulty catching other than the high CP ones. So I think it varies simply like the other Pokemon. I didn't have the same experience, but I would suggest in your catching, be sure to stock up on your pinup berries before you open your box. That way you can maximize the candies that you are getting.
And the reason that maximizing the candies is important is because you need 400 Meltan candies to complete the evolution for Melmetal.
So it's similar to your Wailmer, Swablu, Magikarp sorts of situations. And even then, you can only have access to this box once each week. You get the Meltan from the special research and some candies therein, but that goes quickly.
Yeah. So because you're not going to get those in eggs, you're not going to see them out in the wild. You're not going to see them through other special events except for the quest. If to farm those 400 candies as quickly as possible really is important if you want to complete that
Also, might I add, given our pending event, the sort of winter event that's happening, in the first subsection of the full event, I think this first 5 days, you will be getting extra candy from your transfers. So if you are in a situation in which you have used a Meltan box, that would be a perfect 5 days to transfer your extra crappy Meltan back to get extra candies for that. So if you've used a pin app and you're transferring it back, then you may very well have a good start to your 400.
I'm pretty sure it's extra candy for the catch and the transfer.
That's probably true.
So you're going to get a significant number of candies. So we probably shouldn't have burned ours today and probably should have held on to it till
Yeah,
tomorrow.
I kind of didn't think about that.
So the winter event, which was announced recently, is going to go from December the 18th until January 2nd. And about every 4 or 5 days, a new tier of that opens up. That first one, as you said, is December 18th, which starts at 1 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow, is the 2 times candy for catch and transfer. December 22nd starts 2 times catch Stardust. On the 26th, we get 2 times catch experience. And on the 30th, we get 2 times incubator rate. So everything's going to hatch, twice as fast.
So with those incubator rates accelerating and with the free incubator you will get each day.
A one-time use incubator.
A one-time use incubator, that's for sure. And I'm sure it's probably the one-time regular use.
Oh, yeah.
With that being said, they are going to be releasing some Pokemon in eggs, including our baby forms, such as, I think it's Azurill. No, that's the baby.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. They will be releasing the babies. So Smoochum, Azurill, because they are both water and ice types, in addition to our new Pokemon, Munchlax. So that's going to be an egg format that's going to be available this throughout this time period in 7K eggs. So be sure to open your friends' gifts during this time. I know previously it's been sort of a burden and tax to continue to open those if you filled up on Alolan types and your regular babies. So clear out all your eggs and open up your gifts. That's a long story short.
On top of that, we're also going to see Delibird and Pikachu's with a hat will spawn during this period, and there'll also be extra things in the style shop to, fluff up your avatar a bit, and that will also coincide with the event.
We are also going to have a couple new Pokemon released. So if you take a look at the news bit, you can see on the picture that there are a couple new forms here. So it mentions specifically Snover, at least, and you can see babies such as Chingling here, which is Chimecho's baby, or Chimicho, I'm not sure how you say that one. And then there's also another Pokemon here. So check out your news section and be ready to see those out in the wild. One thing I would suggest as you are encountering new Pokemon is to be sure that you're stocked with eggs so that when you register a new Pokemon to your Pokedex, you get the extra XP for that bonus.
So here we're just finishing up the Meltan catches for that box. That period lasts 30 minutes. This footage has been cropped significantly, so you don't have to watch 30 minutes of Meltan catching. But the old rate was about 1 every 3 minutes, and it's about twice that for the new rate that just dropped. How many Meltan candies are you on your way to finishing your 400?
Well, let's check to be precise. So I currently have 334.
Oh, nice.
But I have already completed the Meltan special research. Additionally, I think today opening my Meltan box, which, mistake by the way, was my third Meltan box. Third or fourth. No, it has to be third. So I'm pretty well on my way. I've also used a couple rare candies here and there, but I'm sort of hoping that with all of the transferring I'll be doing tomorrow that I can bump up from 334 at least into the final stretch, and if not, I'll use a couple rare candies on that.
I'm at about 254. I have put some rare candies into that, but I'm holding on to about 15 now. I didn't trade back any of the ones that didn't have high IVs for catching today. I'll do that tomorrow, so that'll be at least an additional 15 candies, but probably closer to 30. So that'll at least probably put me over 300 pretty shortly.
Cool. Look how little.
So Meltan is a mythical Pokemon, which means you cannot mass select them. They have to be transferred one at a time.
That's true.
Which can be a little bit of a bummer. It takes some time, but it will also maybe help you from transferring something more valuable.
Jason, we do know that Pikachu is going to have a Santa hat. We have gotten that confirmation. So in years past, I think last year they released a Santa hat Pikachu, and I think they are intending to do that again, like they did with the Witch Hat and some others.
Although technically the news does just say festive hat, but I would suspect the
Sure.
same one, since the other ones we've seen have been the same as previous iterations.
Yeah. Aside from the birthday hat, which I don't think we got again. That's the only one that's not new.
So what's on the screen currently is a Phoebus, which took me a heck of a long time to get this evolution. Partly because after I had already walked one, I didn't have the requisite candies. But then the one that I got from an egg had much higher IVs, so I needed to re-walk that one for its
to
20
get your
kilometers.
melodic. Yeah.
So that's a 90% IV melodic, and definitely took some serious time there.
Yeah, it's a commitment. But if you are out and about, your field research task that is trade a Pokemon will give you a Phoebus. If you are still looking for those candies, I would suggest poking around some Pokestops to get those field research tasks. That is super helpful in helping you to get along. You can use your pin apps and really maximize the benefits there. I'm not sure what that is.
So this, what we have on the screen now, which is probably too small to read, is the announcement for the other big thing to drop this week, which is PvP battles.
Ooh.
So there are two forms for this. One in which you can battle another player, and the other like a player
that's me.
in real life. Or one in which you can battle one of the team members of Team Mystic, Instinct, or Valor. And those provide different sorts of benefits. So as you saw, we had 3 tiers, 1500 CP max, 2500, and an unlimited. And that basically caps the CP you can use for the 3 Pokemon. That kind of attempts to level the playing field a bit, and then it becomes pretty tricky to sort of pick types that are going to be useful. You don't know what your opponent is going to play ahead of time, so picking up a wide variety of types to be able to handle whatever you come across is a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
I've had pretty good luck choosing a Hariyama as my first Pokemon battle. Out of the ones I've done so far, I'm pretty sure I've only lost 2 battles total, maybe 3, but yeah.
You're keeping track?
Maybe.
I've lost several. I don't keep track. What I do keep track of, though, is the perks, the things that you get from those battles. So on day 1, I was frantically battling at, I think it was 11 o'clock at night as it just dropped. And I was only able to get Stardust for the first 2 battles that I interacted with, between my friend who I battled at 11 o'clock at night and the trainer. So I was only able to get Stardust. The next day, I was still just struggling with Stardust. I think after my second trainer battle, I stopped getting Stardust. So then I battled a couple friends and got Stardust as well. On day 3, though, however, I battled a trainer, got a Sinnoh Stone, which is the special evolution item that was taken away from the 7-day field research boxes.
Oh, it's still there. I got one.
Well, it's still there, but it's a chance. It's not guaranteed anymore. So, that being said, on day 3, I believe it was, I got a total of 4 stones. 3 from battling this guy, and in one of the battles, I actually got 2 as my reward. So I don't know what the lottery system is there, but it's interesting, that's for sure.
I've gotten 0 Sinnoh Stones from battling. So the main method is very similar to gyms or raids. You are furiously tapping. You have a power-up move. You also have a shield which can block a charge move.
But you get 2 of those.
You only get 2 for the entire battle for those 3 Pokemon. So after you use those, you're just susceptible to the charge move. The thing that's a little bit difficult is the shield button appears right over the charge move button. So if you're like furiously tapping and tapping faster than you're perceiving what changed, you may use a shield when you didn't intend to.
That's true. Also, in this, you only have 3 Pokemon, so Niantic really wanted to emphasize the quickness of these battles and emphasize the strategy that it takes in these. So you only have 2 shields, which for most Pokemon, that's 3 or 4 charge moves worth of move sets. So you only get 2, which means that you need to be really strategic in the way that you are playing the game. With this, though, you do have an option to add a charge move. So if you are willing to sink in I think it's 100,000 or 750,000 Stardust.
It's different for Pokemon. I've seen as low as 12 and 25,000 for less battle-ready ones.
Okay, so some of the more battle-ready, it's up to 100,000 Stardust. And up to 100 candies for that particular Pokemon, you can get a second charge move. Now, in that, it will give you a similar style of window like it does for the 1 charge move, but it will be 2 corresponding on the sides. So you'll see them both charging as you are furiously tapping, and you can click on which one you would like to use. I have gone ahead and selected a couple Pokemon to give that to, such as my very high CP Dragonite. That has been super helpful to have Hyper Beam as a secondary move aside from the Dragon move. So there are some. Those special moves do carry over. You get to use that in gym battles. And you get to use that in other raids. So that is helpful. It's not just a PvP perk, but it is expensive. So if you do have Stardust, I would save that up.
So in this battle, I'm fighting Blanche from Team Mystic. So this is one of the training you can do by yourself. If you don't have someone to play with, you have to be near each other to scan a QR code, or you have to be best friends.
Or Ultra.
But the error message I've seen lately is only allowing for best friends. So I don't. It said Ultra in the documentation, but practically I've only seen it work for best friends.
Okay.
So this is, if you don't have access to that, you don't have anyone at the best friend level, you can train this way. And one of the other added benefits is the Ace Trainer badge, which was basically null and void from the early parts of the game where you could train at gyms and it was just kind of hanging out doing nothing. That has been repurposed for trainer battles here. So I was stuck from early launch Pokemon Go at 8 of 10, right below the bronze level for that. And training here allows you to train that badge up, and it's been repurposed for that reason.
I think I was stuck at like 400 or so Ace Trainers. So I am in the near gold tier of that badge. I think I'm up to 451 by now, maybe, somewhere in that ballpark. So it's going to take a good bit of time to get to the 1000 for your gold badge. But that being said, you can still get perks from those battles at least, I think it's 3 or 4 times a day. So it might be worth it to do that and get your gold badge.
I think I remember reading you only get rewards for 3 battles a day, whether that's with a trainer or another player.
Okay. Not sure. I know my words. I personally have noticed that after my second battle, I stopped getting rewards from trainers or from friend battles or whatnot. So I don't know if that's an array. You have to do 2 of one type and then 1 of the other, or I'm not sure where exactly that breaks down on the math, but needless to say, 2 or 3.
So the shield, as you just saw there, lasts for a specific amount of time. So if you can wait, because the other person has 3 seconds to tap furiously and charge up their charge move, if you wait until they're at like past the 1 count to the 2 or 3 to start your shield will still be there when their attack hits you. If you hit it right at the same time, my experience has been that the shield seems to go away and you still get hit with the charge move, although it uses your shield. So keep a close eye on that.
The only experience I have had like that is with Hariyama. That is the only Pokemon for which I have used a shield, and it has not been effective. So I'm not exactly sure, again, on the mechanics on the shield situation, but Hariyama was the only one that, despite having pressed the shield button, I still got hit with the charge move. So again, you'll have to play around with that and see what works, or what works for you.
So there we go. Is my second trainer battle. I went from 8 to 10 of 10 of 10, and I was finally able to, after 2 years, get that bronze level for the Ace Trainer badge. So if you have something hanging out in the middle, that's definitely something you may want to spend some time doing, even though it is less fun than battling other players or other parts of the game.
Sure. I also noticed that they don't change their Pokemon. At least it doesn't seem to be that they changed their Pokemon. So that's kind of a bummer, but such is life.
What tier have you been playing the most when you're playing with folks?
I've been playing an array. Let's see. With most of my friends, we typically play at least one battle, if not 2 or 3. So we try to split it up across the levels. My favorite so far, though, is the no limits, because I think there's a lot more strategy that takes, there's strategy in all levels, but I like the high impact stuff because it really takes a lot of work to make sure you've used your shield strategically so that you don't get 1 or 2 shotted. And also the types matter because of how effective they are and how much HP they have. It's super important that you know who to play against who, rather than just sort of tapping out your brains.
I've been enjoying the 2 lower tiers more, just because that strategy is different. It's more about type than it is. If you go for a type match and someone has 1,000 CP more, that's going to be a rough battle. So I kind of like having the fixed limits, sort of like the lower tiers in Mario Kart.
Yeah. I never did like those lower tiers in Mario Kart. That was never my thing.
So there you can see a shield was timed correctly and it absorbed the entirety of that damage.
Armaldo.
And here I'm furiously tapping on the charge move to use Armaldo's charge move. That should be 100% IV Armaldo that I got while we were in Scotland.
I've never fought a melodic. Not in the PvP against him.
Yeah, I haven't seen. I've noticed that, at least for me, the Pokemon choices have changed.
Oh.
But
I oftentimes see very similar type, and if they are not the same Pokemon, they are of the same canonical type.
Mm-hmm.
So one particular trainer is apt for fire type, and one is water type. I'll let you guess who is who, but I've sort of noticed those things. So tell us what you've noticed. If you have noticed anything in the PvP, I'm really interested in that aspect. I do hope that it's sort of built up to be a long-standing part of the game. I think right now they're still trying to feel out what it could be and what it is and what it's supposed to be. I do hope that it takes on new flavors and different pieces of the game, because otherwise it may draw stale pretty quickly. So I hope that they figure something out. But other than that, I do think it's pretty decent for a partial overhaul of the game system. Obviously, it's not my favorite. I would rather just go do raid battles. But to introduce new elements, I think they've done fairly well.
I think that so this has been a feature like this has been basically clamored at since the day of launch. It's been the single thing. I think people were bummed out that it wasn't there at launch. I mean, sort of part of the whole premise of the console and portable games are that you're doing these PvP battles, and so that was the one thing that people wanted. But now, after having played for 2 years, I kind of suspect this will end up being the least used feature of the game 6 months from now. I suspect that its novelty will wear off pretty soon, and I can't really base that on anything. That's just kind of my gut instinct. I don't think that this will become a feature of the game.
I do hope that they have something stocked up their sleeve in regard to this. For me, in playing the Pokemon games historically, the trainer battles are part of my least favorite things. I'm really a collector, and I really like collecting things for my Pokedex. So the trainer battles have just been sort of a subsidiary. I have to do this in order to level up and evolve my guys. For me, it's kind of give or take, or take or leave. But
I think something that would make it way cool would be an invitational esports bracket Pokemon battle, where like teams show up and you compete in a like double elimination tournament for Pokemon glory. That I think, Niantic, if you're watching, would I think actually change the game.
So one thing I did watch, if you are familiar with some of the YouTubers who play Pokemon, Trainer Tips Nick and several of the other YouTubers did an invitational style tournament. It was sort of like the first one within the first day or so. I think Mystic 7 was also there. They did a one-off like bracket tournament with one another, hours on end, battling, and they did video that. So if you're interested, go check that out. I think the video is a couple hours long, but
I haven't seen that. I didn't see that happen.
It is quite comical.
That's my idea that I just had.
Yeah, well, good job.
So the other thing that happened is the return of Lugia and Ho-Oh.
Or, as Kevin likes to call, Ho-Ho.
What can you do?
Oh, no.
So you actually did not end up with a Lugia the first time around. Is that true?
That is true. And let me tell you what happened. Long, long ago, as they introduced the rating system, they had several different Pokemon that were in the battles, and Lugia quickly became one of those. I went to Lugia raid after Lugia raid, after Lugia raid after Lugia raid, and by the point in time that I had reached the 8th raid battle, I had still not collected a Lugia. I then pretty promptly quit going to raids. I also then quit really playing at all, except for the 7-day rewards. I didn't catch much of anything for probably about 4 months, give or take, because I never caught a Lugia. So I'm pretty excited about this event. It was really a chance for me to, get some retribution on that Lugia situation, because I still had not cleared it up until Saturday. I still hadn't gotten one in my Pokedex, and I think I'm now down to about 13 Pokemon, aside from Gen 4, that I don't have, and several of those are either regional exclusives or not released yet. So that was pretty disappointing for me to not have that in the Pokedex.
So I actually am pleased to report that my catch rate is still on the up and up. We went to 5 or 6.
I think 5.
I think 5 Lugia raids, and I caught all but one, which was pretty exciting from my previous sub 40% level 5 catch rate.
That's true.
So we found that with a decent group of players, with most players being level 30 and above, or even higher than 35, that 5 players was decent for Lugia. 7 is definitely achievable, and if you're any higher than 7 to 9, then you definitely got it in the bag. If you are a lower level player or playing with lower level folks, those numbers are probably going to creep up, but it still seems like a pretty doable level 5 raid, all things considered, from what we've seen lately.
Of course, with your counter choices in mind, those Pokemon that are most effective were your things like electric, rock, dark, water, pretty much anything really.
I started with a team that was based predominantly on rock, but typically those rock Pokemon are a bit slow. Yeah. And I found that as we did some of these raids that I was choosing the water Pokemon more and more, and eventually that team mostly was water Pokemon, and I think that was doing the best for me compared to my previous mostly rock choice.
My electric Pokemon were pretty effective. I had a lot of good luck with them. The thing that I did notice is that my party for Lugia was mostly still relevant for the Ho-Oh raids. So if you were savvy enough, you could arrange it in such a way that you had a primary party and a backup party that worked for both of them. I did create a couple parties just so it would be easier for me to swipe rather than using the recommended parties if I remembered.
The bummer about so now that you can also now create parties. I don't know if you mentioned this. I was handling a chat issue. That you also can create parties for the PvP at the different tiers. So when they changed the party system, it nuked all of the previous parties you had built. So I had 4 of 5 previous parties that I used on a pretty regular basis, and those are gone. And I hadn't screen capped them. I had a general feel for which ones they were, but it was kind of a bummer to lose that. It would have been nice if they had protected that data and moved it over into the raid section, but instead they just deleted it.
So hi, Dimension. It's good to see you here. This is our footage from the previous week. So we're just now into our Lugia and Ho-Oh battles. Both of us were excited about this reintroduction of these Pokemon because we had not had Lugia before in our battles. Me, or at least for myself, I attempted the raid battles last time but never had luck. So for me this time I did have, I think, 100% catch on the Lugia, and I had probably about 75% catch on the Ho-Oh. We'll see some footage later of exciting things to come. But so far, I think the array of the stats for the Pokemon that I have caught for these 2 raid battles were anywhere from, I think, 72 to 91 or 93. So it is a fairly high spread of the IVs on that, but still, it's a raid Pokemon, so generally those are a bit higher.
That was higher than I tended to see. I tended to see most of them clustered in the 73% IV, and my highest was in the low 80s. So that was definitely a change from what I saw from those.
How many Lugia raids did you put in here?
I think there's 4.
Okay. Yeah, so as you can see here with the Pokemon, there's sort of a Tyranitar heavy group. The Tyranitar does have rock type moves and also the dark moves. So both of those are going to be particularly helpful. The rock probably more so than the dark type moves, but I did have a Weevil in my party because she's hardy and she has 2 good dark moves. So Golem here is probably good on both of those functions, whether you have an electric type or a ground type, or sorry, rock type. So Golem is particularly fast on the output of moves.
This one who's about to die here is a 100% IV Alolan Golem with with both electric moves, both its fast and charge moves. Of course, one of the things you have to watch out for is you have to watch out for every Tier 5 battle is the pile of Agrons problem. If you don't have a pre-made party, chances are the app is going to suggest a pile of Agrons for you, which may not be to your benefit. Although you noticed a change in the recommended parties this weekend, didn't you?
I did. So as I talked about earlier in the stream, I went ahead and used Stardust and Candies to get the secondary moves for several of my high CP battle ready Pokemon. In that instance, because I had left many of my Agrons in the graveyard, so to speak, with no revive, I did notice that many of those Pokemon with the secondary charge moves came up in my recommended parties. So that is helpful, I find, because oftentimes the secondary charged moves are of different types. So if you have, for instance, on my Dragonite, a normal move such as Hyper Beam and also a dragon move such as Dragon Pulse, it's nice to be able to choose between those given which raid boss you're fighting.
The other thing we noticed in catching the Lugia this weekend is that, one, it is a giant Pokemon, but it is also, if you've been catching Pokemon for any length of time, you'll know the Pokemon can be closer or further away from you as the player, as far as the depth of that area goes. And Lugia is really close, so throws which would not have been great throws for pretty much any other Pokemon were landing as great throws for us this weekend. I don't know if that's a bug or if that's a factor of its size plus its proximity. I'm kind of inclined towards the latter, but it was definitely nice to be able to have those easy Great Balls.
I don't remember that being the case when they were released the first time, but then again, that was a pretty bleak period. One thing I do find difficult, though, is to the curveballs with the Pokemon being so close. I can't really get it into the perfect center of that circle because they're so close. And I had that struggle for both Ho-Oh and Lugia.
So, hey Kamalinia, welcome to the stream. Thanks for tuning in. This is Let's Play Games West Virginia, and we're looking at some Pokemon Go footage from the past week.
So right now we're watching Kevin here fight through some Lugia catching. We did both accumulate several over the course of the weekend. We have a standard raiding group that goes out to some of the new events and the new raid bosses. Typically, if we can get our schedules to merge, we try and go to those together so that we have a consistent group to catch those for ourselves. If you don't have a consistent group, I would suggest finding your local Discord app or, finding other people that you might see out playing. But for us, the system seems to work, so we can go to 4 or 5 raid battles in an afternoon and really try to catch those puppies.
One of the things that I noticed for this event is we actually ran into a lot more people who were outside of our typical raiding group, especially on Sunday. The weather was particularly mild for the winter here where we're at in West Virginia, and so I don't think that probably contributed. On Sunday. Went out for Ho-Oh on Sunday. But we ran into a lot more other people. We hopped actually into someone else's raiding group and went through several of their raids with them to kind of flesh out that party.
It looks like our footage has
it does kind of like
gotten stuck. Oh no!
So there's nothing I can do about that. We'll give it a second and see if it's just a hiccup.
Oh, it is.
Good. One of the things that's strange about OBS, if you've done any streaming, is there's
go to that raid.
Actually there's no way to control media input footage like play, pause, forward, back.
Interesting.
Yep. I think you had to have been here.
Oh, right. I was thinking business and economics. Oh, yeah, because that's the special one.
Yeah. Right, so your footage is maybe later.
Maybe.
I know it's here, it's just later.
Well, this is a particularly fun raid for me, as we'll see later. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but here we are with just oodles and oodles of Lugia and Ho-Oh raid battles.
Well, as you can see, we've got, 15 or 18 players in at the time, and so these battles were relatively short. As you can see, Lugia is down to half of its health, and we're not even into a full minute of time yet. So.
Yeah, generally the more players you can get, the easier it's going to be, unless your raid boss is already super easy, like the X raids with Deoxys. So I find that with those, it just makes it easier to go by. But if you don't have a group there, you kind of have to wait on people, and at some point you have to say, well, let's just go ahead and try it, and we can wait on more people if they come, because at that point, time is of the essence.
Speaking of Deoxys, there's some news on that front as well.
Yeah, so we are getting a new form of Deoxys. If you are not familiar, it's mythical. Deoxys is technically considered mythical, though it functions like legendary. We have had the regular form currently, but coming soon after the December 20th raid and invites cluster, they are going to be switching to the attack form of Deoxys. So its look will change. The things that it can do will change. So stay tuned for that change coming pretty quickly. If you have not gotten a raid invite yet for the X-Raid, I would suggest seeking out your local X-Raid gyms and maybe doing some raids there or having a higher presence.
If you're not familiar, Deoxys comes in several varieties. It has its regular form, a speed form, a defense form, and an attack form. So we'll be we've had the standard form for a while now, and we will be getting this the attack form this time around, which is great because it's pretty much been just that standard form for 2 months now?
Pretty close, yeah. Let's see. Still glitching.
Yep, not sure what's happening with our media footage there.
No.
Let's see if it irons itself out.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah. There we go. Did it just start all over again?
It kind of looks like it started all over.
I don't think it did.
You don't?
I have no way to tell. We'll give it a minute so I can watch
We're
a little
just
bit.
Gonna have to watch
We'll
this.
see what's up.
I'm surprised you're throwing curveballs in that way. Because it was over to the side.
Oh, yeah. Every once in a while, I just get into that groove of throwing curveballs, and I really can't throw them the other way unless I use my left hand and thumb. So, but yeah, so that's always difficult to do.
If that's a Zapdos.
If that's a Zapdos, we had a serious, catastrophic media problem, and I think that will be the end of the stream for the night.
Oh no! It's not.
Maybe. All right, I have no idea what's going on.
Okay, so did you accidentally add in old footage, or?
It's possible.
So, well then, we've talked about our winter event that is coming up. Just to review, we are going to get a special Pikachu. My guess is probably the Santa Hat Pika again. But stay tuned for Santa Hat Pichu. That's probably a possibility as well, because the babies are being released again into the eggs. So I don't know if Pichu will be available, but we definitely have things like Smoochum, Azurill, Munchlax. So Munchlax is new. We also are going to be getting a daily one-use incubator. An incubator for our eggs, so you can use those effectively. Additionally, there's going to be a whole lot of Stardust and experience given over the course of the event from the 18th all the way to January 2nd. So stay tuned for those things.
So here I was using a Sinnoh Stone that I got from a 7-day rewards, and I was able to evolve a Sneasel to a Weevil. I wanted to go ahead and evolve this one to have another sort of dark move. Aficionado. I had some extra candy and Stardust that was not really useful enough to evolve anything else, so I went ahead and powered that one up.
That one is a particularly helpful battle-ready Pokemon of the Dark type. I've actually had a lot of success with my Weevil being hardy in battle. So oftentimes, if that's my first Pokemon, other people are going through 2 or 3 Pokemon by the time Weevil is downed. So I would suggest using your Sinnoh Stone on that one if you have a good Sneasel that you'd like to use. Now I get to see what kind of Pokemon you select for the battles.
That is one of the benefits. So you don't know what you're fighting, and your opponent doesn't know what you're choosing when you're getting ready for the battles. So this can be helpful. We think with this we're actually getting ready to play some D&D last weekend, and we had a little bit of time, so we decided to do a Pokemon battle or two. And this is the battle where you ended up with 2 Sinnoh Stones in this section of them. So I don't know if that's a bug or if you were just crazy lucky, but the random number generator gods were definitely in your favor that evening.
One thing I will say with the battles, and this is pretty well commented on from several people, is that the rewards are not explicitly for the winner of the battle. So in this instance, I'm pretty sure I lost at least a handful of those battles that we did, and I still got Sinnoh Stones. So it's not a prerequisite that you win the battle in order to get the perks. But whatever you do get does drop off after, I think, 2 or 3, maybe 4 battles total. So after that, it's not really advantageous to do it other than the possibility of experience. So
one of the things worth noting for the battles, since you don't know what you're going up against, you may find that when the battle starts or new Pokemons come out, you have a type matchup which is decidedly not in your favor. You can recall that Pokemon and use one of the others that you have left ready to fight and put that other one back in later.
And so that's the same button as it is with raids. You can see in the bottom right of the screen when he's tapping, you can actually change that out.
Yeah, so I haven't actually used that much, which is probably I need to change. Also there, if you saw, I waited until it was the counter was 2/3 of the way finished before I started my shield. And I think that's pretty best practices as far as those shields go.
So you can see in the bottom right there, the switch button. That is helpful. I have used that a handful of times. Like for instance, when Kevin and I are battling and we both have 2 Hariyamas out, that's not really in either of our favor. So it's really just whoever's stronger at that point.
Yeah, basically a slap fight.
Yep.
And even though this Gyarados is not my more powerful one, it's shiny, and I'm going to drag that guy out every chance I get. So.
It does do the shiny animation sequence, so if you are into that, it does do that in the battle scene.
Well, let's be honest,
everyone's into
that.
Yeah, we're into shinies, definitely.
So this was not a matchup particularly in my favor of a water type versus steel.
No, not really helpful for you. Plus, that Metagross has 2 moves. So it has the double charge move, like I talked about earlier. You can buy that for expensive Stardust and candies, but it is worth it for your very high CP Pokemon.
So that battle I lost. So it doesn't say like get in loser, you lost some Pokemon. It tells you good effort. So it doesn't damage your ego there.
It's either you won or great effort. And then the perks therein.
That was like bump set denied.
Literally swatted away.
I don't even know why I'm going after this Teddy Ursa. Like we were sitting there battling. I'm like, oh look, there's a Pokemon to catch.
There's Pokemon. Do it.
I think some of the first high CP Pokemon that I had when we started playing again, were Teddy Ursas. But yeah, they pretty much have no use in the game for me anymore.
Yeah. We've got a ton of your footage this week.
Yes, we do. We originally had an hour and 50 minutes, so it got trunked down to about an hour 10.
So well, my footage got trunked down.
No.
I'm kidding. But we've not had much of it.
That's true.
And here we are with an electric type versus a ground type. If you've ever watched the Pokemon Go, or sorry, not that. If you've ever watched the original Indigo League of Pokemon, you will know that electric does not match up to ground rock type very well.
Unless you can hook a Pikachu up to a power generator or a hydroelectric dam, in which case you can like ruin an Onix's day. That's the moral there.
Yeah. But otherwise, that's not going to work out well for you.
So I have still not applied a Sinnoh Stone to this guy yet.
Really?
Yeah.
I totally have. Rhyperior, and they changed the sizes on those. So before, Rhyperior sort of looked like the short gym bro who's like shorter than everybody else, but has all kinds of ripped muscles. Now Rhyperior and the animation is gigantic. So if you're battling with Rhyperior, you actually can't see past him across in your PvP battle. So if you do that, he's pretty strong. I have one and I like to use it. It's one of my original 2016 Pokemon, so I was willing to use a Sinnoh Stone.
So now we're into some of your footage.
Yep. So thus far in December, we have our birds and dogs, if you will, for the 7-day research deal. I have gotten 2 Entei, can't say that right. And 1 Suicune that I just got today. So, depending on what luck of the gods that you draw, you will get different things. You got a Zapdos, I saw. So, I've not had particularly great luck. I got 2 Enteis in a row. But, that's okay.
I guess it's great if you didn't have a chance to catch those previously. But if you already have them, it kind of feels like a bye month where there's just nothing really interesting happening for you in the 7-day run.
So
you probably needed another Beldum.
Yeah, definitely needed more Beldum after Community Day, and then Beldum Community Day, and then the massive December Community Day that we talked about last week. Didn't need Beldum, and quite honestly didn't need any more Bagon either. Bagon. Bacon and egg, whatever.
I like his 1700s.
That's true. He's got some serious hair. Yeah, I have not had much luck with the hatching as of late. But I hope that this event will give us some new good hatching, because I'm quite tired of the current hatchings. I think this Piplup was my favorite hatch of the week. It had particularly good IV, so I'm pretty excited about that. As you can see, that's a 95, so pretty excited. I do have the final form of that one, so it's not strictly necessary, but I do like to find a good Pokemon with its internal dynamics. We've got a lot of footage there happening.
Yep, this is the new feature for the week. I think it was reasonable to talk about it for a bit. Do you have an idea of how many of those you've done so far? Is there a way to check that?
So, according to my Ace Trainer badge, that doesn't include what I've battled from other trainers out in the wild. On my badge, I have battled the 3 Team Masters 45 times. So 450 Ace Trainers, and I'm now up in the 489. I'm 489, so a good 30 battles.
That is way more than I have.
Game this to see how many times I could battle and still get perks, because it wasn't explicitly stated. So I did a lot of those. And also, I kind of in the way that different Pokemon work in there. So I'm hoping that in my battling with different trainers that I will learn some of the mechanics and strategies.
Agent Quado asked if we had any luck with the Ho-Oh and Lugia raids.
Yeah.
I have Lugia that we battled.
I'm gonna count here because it's probably just easier for me to do that than to try to. On the raid battles. So in terms of Lugia, I did go to 5 on Saturday and was successful there. I also did 1 today, and I caught that one. Wait, is that true? 3, 4, 5. Yes, I caught 1 today. I caught 1 Ho-Oh today, and I think of the Ho-Ohs that we've done over the past, I think I have a total of 3 from this weekend.
Yep, so that's our final catch for the week. Yeah, we just realized that. Thanks, Agent Quado. We just changed the audio, so that should be a little bit easier to hear now.
Thanks for that heads up. We didn't know that was going on. Sorry. Woo, I won! And got Stardust.
Yeah, so you're almost halfway to that next level for the Ace Trainer badge.
Almost halfway to gold. Yeah, so here I'm really trying to play with different Pokemon right around the CP limit to see who is more battle ready. Because some of these Pokemon are faster, giving you a better time period to use that. Others, not so much. But while we are talking, I have a scheduled friend level up that's coming up in a couple minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and put on a lucky egg for when he opens up my gift. That way, when we become best friends, we can maximize the experience points and both get 200,000 rather than just 100,000. So give me just a second, I'm going to do that.
So one of the things that's definitely good to do for maximizing your XP, as we've heard of say before, between level 37 and level 40 is half of the playing time of the game. So you're definitely in that grind from level 35 and above, and you really want to maximize every single bit of experience that you can. So one of the things that you want to do is look at your friends list, see when you're going to be increasing your friendship, assuming you at least have some contact with that person in real life or online. Coordinate your opening of gifts for that day so you can both use eggs and double the XP. So If you're getting an ultra friend or a best friend, that is a significant change.
Now, the way that you can check that, you can go to that friend page, and if you click on the little bubbles where it's filling up, you can see how many days away you are from that. Now, I've had a little bit of errors interpreting that, but you know, that's probably just user error. So if you want to check and see how close you are with your friends, that's a good place to do that.
So we're definitely looking forward to the ice event as well. There definitely should be some good Pokemon to catch there.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited about the new Pokemon release. So we're going to get Munchlax. We're going to see things like Chingling, the baby of Chimecho, Chimecho, however you want to say that. I'm excited for those new ones because I like to fill out the decks. That's my primary agenda in the game. So I'm super excited. Plus, with all of the perks for XP, Stardust, and hatching, that's going to be super sweet.
And we talked about previously that winter event will kick off in stages starting tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific. So check your local time. Make sure that you don't transfer a bunch of Pokemon or do anything too early for your time, or else that will be a serious thing to regret.
So it has been that was a very fast video. I don't know if you all caught it. It has been a very shiny week. I actually timed up to buddy up with one of my friends to level up to Ultra so we could get a Stardust discount, and then promptly traded with him a shiny Puchenia's final form for a Mewtwo that I had accumulated. So that was a super awesome trade that I did over the week. There were also other shinies involved, including a shiny Charizard trade that I didn't know was happening, but one of my close friends on Pokemon Go surprised me with a Charizard that was shiny. So that was pretty exciting. We also have a couple other shinies happening later on in the video footage, if you haven't figured that out yet.
Yep, actually I think those are coming up pretty shortly. I haven't done a Snorant raid at all lately. I actually haven't done hardly any lower raids, just the level 5s we've been hitting.
I am always an advocate of doing the lower raids because I think they are a good use of your time and experience points because those add up quickly. Granted, the lower raids are only, like 6,000 experience points, but it also gives you a chance to get a high IV Pokemon. So knowing that Snorant has another final evolution, Frostlass, I really want to get a good IV one. So I'm always an advocate for going to those lower ones if they have particular benefits or advantages for you. So here we have some of my Sinnoh usage footage.
Giant horde of Sinnoh.
Yeah, because I got 4 in one day. I don't even know how that happened, honestly. But the Pokemon gods have been in my favor, so I'm not going to complain. But here we have a new Pokemon, and it has been pretty exciting because I did have a high IV Magmar to evolve. You can see it's 95% there. Although that's probably lower now. That was under the old system, so it might be 93 or 91, possibly even 89. But that's still exciting because now Magmortar is in my Pokedex.
Yeah, so if you've taken a break or haven't been playing for a while, I don't want to say they nerfed the CP system, but they nerfed the CP system, and some of your Pokemon who may have been higher CP were reduced. So if you're used to thinking in the percentages of your particular team, that may have changed. So definitely using an external IV calculator, whether it's a spreadsheet or an app that doesn't violate the TOS, is definitely something you may want to consider.
Mm-hmm. So here we have Electabuzz to Electivire. I was pretty excited about this one because it's also another electric type that is particularly relevant for battle raids. So Electivire is pretty strong and was probably helpful for this weekend in Lugia and Ho-Oh raids. So I hope that those of you who've evolved it used it. I did use it a couple of times, but not every single time.
Yeah, if you're stuck based on where you live and how many people you can play with in a given time, that definitely changes the way you play the game. We're pretty lucky that we have an pretty good sized and very active Pokemon Go community in the town that we live in, and there's pretty much someone who's playing every day at some point. And we also organize things. We get almost 20 people together to hop from raid to raid to raid, and that definitely changes the way that we play. So if you're a more rural player and you have trouble hitting to some of those high raids, then that is kind of a bummer. We've seen people travel as far as 2 hours to come to our town, which isn't large. We have a university here, but it's not large by any stretch. We've got fewer than 70,000 residents. It's not a huge town. And so people even travel here if they're even more rural. We live in a small state, so definitely can change the way you play.
So on the Sinnoh front here, Mischievous was one of the latter ones that I decided to evolve, as with Togetic. Because they are not as battle ready, I decided to wait on the Sinnoh for that. So my first one was Rhyperior. My second one that came in my research box was a Weevil that I chose to evolve. And then after that, I decided to go for the battle-ready Pokemon until I had passed Electivire and those sorts of Pokemon. So now I'm getting toward the end. I think I have, let's see, so I got 4 the other day and 2 in the research boxes. So I have 6 of the, I think, 11 that take these Sinnoh Stones. So the other 5, I'm still excited about. I want to add them to the Pokedex, but I haven't really felt the need to do that immediately.
A little bit of a humble brag there with your
It wasn't humble brag. I'm just stating.
pile of Sinnoh Stones.
It just so happened to, I got lucky and that happened. It can happen to anyone. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't pick my Sinnoh Pokemon necessarily based on their utility, because it's not how I play games. I chose them on account of cool hats, and now I'm kind of more focused on clearing up some Pokemon.
So here's our big thing this week. So you remember how I talked about this diatribe of me not catching any Lugia for the first 8 raids that I went on originally when those Lugia were out? This was sort of a sweet spot on our day of raiding Lugia. We went to 5 raids, and on the 5th and final raid, we finished the raid, and I jumped into the catch sequence and basically lost my mind. Additionally, the shiny gods have smiled upon me recently, which is not the case usually. And yesterday, was it yesterday? Yesterday, we went to 2 raids, both Ho-Oh, and no, 3 raids. And on the second raid, I got a shiny Ho-Oh, which is metallic and cool. So I was able to get both of those shinies this weekend and add Lugia to my Pokedex for the first time, though I've been playing since 2016. So that was a super cool weekend for me.
So you ended up with a shiny Lugia, a shiny Ho-Oh, and did you get a shiny Charizard in a trade?
A shiny Mychania in a trade, a shiny Charizard in a trade, a Lugia from the raid, a shiny Lugia, and a shiny Ho-Oh from the raid, and the 4 stones. So it has been a hot and heavy Pokemon week in this household.
I also acquired some new shinies. I got a shiny Magnemite through a trade, but I was just traveling around town and I was using my Pokemon Go Plus, the little Bluetooth dongle guy. Wasn't really paying attention to what I was catching, just spinning stops and picking up Pokemon. And when I looked later, I had caught 2 shinies during that trip. They were both in the same day. One was a shiny Snubbull and the other was a shiny Roselia. Which I already had one from previous times. But that's crazy that I caught those with the Go Plus, because that's just a one and done, pass, fail, catch it or not.
Regular Pokeball.
Yeah, regular Pokeball.
It's pretty cool, Agent, that you got a Sinnoh Stone to use. I do find that Magmortar is helpful for fire type, but Rhyperior is sort of like the original, like the OG. It is a good solid choice if you do get another Sinnoh Stone. I would suggest the PvP battles. I don't even know how it happened, but it did, and I'm super excited about it. So battle your friends, your best friends and ultra friends, and the trainers, because Sinnoh Stones can happen in either of those formats. In addition to the chance of getting one in the special research or the field research box.
So just a little bit of housekeeping before we wrap up. With the holiday season approaching, LPGWV has something going on every night of the week usually, but our holiday schedule may change up a bit. So PokéMondays is going to take at least a 1 week, but probably 2 week break, and we will see you coming January. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and I want to wish everyone
Wait. So just to recap where we've been, in case you missed it, there's a special event that's coming up. Get out and get your ice type and your water type Pokemon for the bonus event that's happening from the 18th, which is tomorrow, until the 2nd. So we are done here, but now we can have the tagline. Sorry.
So I wanted to wish everyone a Merry Christmas.
And a Happy Mew Year.
This is PokéMondays. I'm Kevin.
I'm Heather.
Thanks for tuning in to Let's Play Games West Virginia, and we will see you soon.